All right, Shalom, Yashala. Giving all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai by Hashem Rakakadash. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles, elders, bishops, great millstone. Much salutation to the brothers, teaching word for the hopeful elect, soon to be elect, most high will. To the hopeful extended elect, Shalom, blessings. I'm learning to, what do you call it? Use my voice better because, sometimes people don't understand me. I don't know if I'm talking, pronouncing words, so I'm what do they call it, emitting or something. Like I'm using more trajectory with my voice. I don't know how the right word to say it, but so you know, might say, "But how the brother sound like that?" But you know, multiple wives. I might just name it that, but you know, Jake gotta realize too that what it's easier to say things, and then really, in all actuality, when faced with circumstances, you don't really mean it, or it plays out differently. And um, you know, I think Apostle Hard mentioned too that there's such thing called fancy girls. You can look it up yourself. A term fancy girl, and I meant to do it. I'm gonna still do a video about it. Just I did one, but I did another video, and it was too much memory taken, so I had to delete that one to save the other video so I can upload. You know, but now I got a better system so I can have, I got more gigs so I can, you know, upload to my computer, uh, having more gigs, the actual video, so I can put 2 or 3 videos up there and have them saved on the computer. The term fancy girl or fancy maid is a historical term from the period of slavery in the United States, which we are still in slavery. It says that in the Bible we are to the slave. See, a lot of these camps, they got bags and all that. So they pick and choose and cherry pick because they got money to do so, you know. And I just, even with IUIC, I just don't believe that they follow that themselves, that one woman to one man thing. But yeah, I might be wrong, but having that money, having that much money, having them many women around is temptation. If you're a real man, that's temptation. You know, it tells you not to be around a lot of women and not even spend that too much time with your own woman. It could rub off on you, man. Jake, a lot of Jakes are sucker for love, man. Suckers for love, man. And I'm not saying every man that's married, and I'm not saying every man in IUIC, but I'm just saying that that's there. That's a thing. Um, but it says a historical term from the period of slavery in the United States used to refer to an enslaved young woman of African descent, and best believe those so-called slave masters were getting them women at 12 or 13 years old. Best believe, but Jake women ain't got ish to say about that, man. And they still doing that today, even hey, in Hollywood and even in the Jewish lifestyle. The so-called Jews, the small hats, they practice that all the time. That's a common practice in their religion. Never called out for it. You know, vocab. He's an agent for them because he never calls them out. I've yet to hear him say anything to light about their folly or their ill behavior. Um, it says African descent. You know that was us. We're not Africans. We're Israelites, but they called us Africans. They mixed us up with. Hey, Moses was mistaken. I mean, Paul was mistaken as an Egyptian. You know, but he out of his own mouth he said, "I'm an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin." Um, it says typically with a lighter complexion. There go that keyword lighter and complexion, who was purchased explicitly for the purpose of sexual exploitation, because that spoils. You know, our women be marrying these Edomites thinking that they, fancy, like the fancy girl. I might even look up that word fancy and shaking their tail feather, whatever, shaking their tail for them. And they look at them like sexual uh, spoils to exploit sexual exploitation, like it says, forced prostitution and concubinage, concubinage, concubinage. If I'm saying that right, concubinage. I'm gonna leave it alone. Uh, I just butchered it, man. But anyway, we were bought and sold as sex commodities during the domestic slave trade, often at prices several often at prices several times higher than those of field laborers. A status symbol. The women with a status symbol for wealthy white slave owners who desire exotic sexual experiences and the feeling of complete power over another human being. Colorism. That's still used today. There were a significant preference for light skinned women, often of mixed ancestry, and it plays a role today. You know, um, and then if it is a dark woman that a so-called white man gets as a marriage form of marriage today, they gotta slick their hair back. They gotta put all kind of oils to get that nigger nap out of their hair. Who was that called? I think that dude from Cheers, Ted Danson. I think I think, or either Seinfeld character. What's his name? And he called them nappy headed hoes. One of them dudes. I forget his name, man. Uh, but he played the character on Seinfeld. It'll probably come to me. But often of mixed ancestry, which played into the system of colorism within slavery. For sexual violence, they go that violence. These individuals were subjected to ongoing sexual, and these women loved the sex. They fell in love with this. It was really a violation at first, and then the slave master women's like, hey, I like this, and he give me money. Sometimes I get to go on trips with him. Even though they show you a carriage and all that, and he goes see up north to see his family, whatever. It's still relevant, still similar to today. You know, the same way they take them, fly them to France. Paris. They fly them to places, and they come back home, and they after it out of them. Give them a MasterCard to go spend a little money. You know, same shit that goes on today, man. These individuals were subjected to ongoing sexual violence and abuse, which was an integral part of the grape culture, and the code word in U.S. slavery. The fancy trade, the buying and selling of these women. See, they have a buying and selling system all through history that's relevant to today. Going into the MOTB, I just had to mention that. Just in case you think that it was, it's always been a buying and selling. Uh, these women, for this purpose, was referred to as the fancy trade. I bet women never knew that. The term fancy woman is a related, broader, and older informal term meaning a woman who was a prostitute or a man's mistress. But like I said, they desired, fair, lighter complexion women. Now, uh, there was a, they just came out with a rendition of the old Color Purple that starred Whoopi Goldberg as the main star, Danny Glover and all them, and then the new one was with Fantasia and that one of those females, those singers. I forget their names, and a few more other famous people in there, famous women. Uh, but I'm gonna show you that picture that kind of expresses what I just read. Here's Whoopi Goldberg on the left, And Goldberg is known. I mean, even by what comments been saying and people been saying, our people been saying across the world and here and there, and as being an unattractive woman. Uh, this is the type of woman. Even in a younger age, they would have been. I mean, black women would have been bagging on, like in school, like, "You ugly. Why are you so ugly?" You know how children are. They open with it with how they feel. So I didn't heard it plenty of times, that they be calling other women ugly. Ooh, she's ugly. So they would have definitely, she would have been in that category of ridicule and then the woman on the right, she's the fair one, like it says, she's the one that um, the slave master would have desired over this woman. Whoopi would have been in the field, and this woman would have been in the house. And they got a term called "Don't let the light skin fool you," because at the end of the day, we all Jake. So, but that's a term not only because of light skin, is because of what the favorite that was showed to light skinned people. Even expressing in this the woman, uh, and so she was used as sex. So she was kind of like, even in this picture right here, and even when she would perform and sing, the one on the right, um, she would she was kind of seductive with her performance. Whoop it, with makeup and fix herself up. You see her hair straightened and all that. Whoopi, on the other hand, no makeup, her hair braided and all that. So they kind of give you a vision of how the so-called slave masters would see our women, and how they would you know pick what they would call the better choice. And our the so-called black man kind of share that same outlook, as far as like, damn, you know, I ain't getting with Whoopi Goldberg. Hell no. I ain't getting with Celie. I'd rather get with that one female that be singing at the club, man. She's fine as hell. So, you'll have might have a situation like this, especially during these times, and you say, "Well, I want to get with you. You a singer, you beautiful, the one on the right." And she say, "Well, my sister, that might be her sister. That might be a cousin. Well, she's lonely. She's she wants a baby because she's never had one. She that's the only thing that she feel like that could show her love as a child. So you can't marry me. You got to go into her first, and then I'll marry you. And then how many dudes wouldn't do that, man? Well, they'll consider it because they be like, hell no, I ain't going into what. But if they really infatuated with this woman, desire this woman, they're gonna be like, damn, I might have to think about this, man. And then this woman on the right, she's saying, "Hey, I'll be your wife forever." We could fall in love and go off and do whatever, and I'll do whatever for you and all that. You be like, "Shit, man, I might have to do this," you know. And let's say you choose somebody that's a little more attractive than Whoopi Goldberg. That's still a thing that a man would consider. So he ain't gonna think of adultery. He's not going to feel like he's doing nothing wrong, and never did we. Even when we were younger, it wasn't in us when we were young, and it wasn't in our mother to say anything about us having many women, because that was the nature of Israel anyway. It was just in our blood, so to speak, in our spirit. Like you could bring home a different woman, every other month. She'd be like, "Man, when you gonna settle down?" She ain't gonna be mad and say, "Oh, you doing wrong. God's gonna punish you." But let it come to a daughter. Oh, you're gonna get pregnant. He might be the wrong man for you. You fast. You're giving up your box to everybody. It's gonna, so that lets you know it's in the spirit of us, a lot of times that Jake goes over Jake's head, man. Before I talk too much, and we know the scriptures, and it reminds me of Jacob loving Rachel. He got tricked with having to have Leah. Was it Leah? Yeah, and then so you could be really liking a woman, but you have to work for her. You have to do certain things to get her. You know, and you don't think about a man really don't think about yeah, I'm doing wrong because I'm sleeping with this other woman. Especially when the woman is tripping and out of order. Like Jacob pop and then be like, and then see a like the apostles going into he'll see us find a cousin or something like, damn man, I should have got with her. He don't think about adultery. Now, do Jake commit adultery? Yeah, because he don't know the scriptures or he don't, but in his spirit he knows that that's not wrong. You know, and like we said, plenty of scriptures all through the scriptures. Men had many wives. And it does say in the New Testament like a bishop should be the he should be the um, of the husband of one wife because he's a leader. He got to focus. Like Most High know that women are temptation. He even says not to spend much time with them because she flatter you with her eyes, tempt you with her eyelids, say seductive things, and it's contrary to popular belief, but it's really women that really seduce men more than men don't really go out there and be like, yeah, let me get this woman. You know what I'm saying? And Chase, it's only when she's acting seductive, like, damn, I gotta have her. She come out with a dress with her ass hanging out, titties. Now that's not saying that that's our like, but you definitely gonna be tempted if you see a fine ass woman with a body and all that. I mean, that's a man's instincts. But if you get to know her, you be like, man, I actually want to marry this woman. So you ain't gonna treat her like no slut when you marry her or think of her that way. But when you first see her, you're gonna be like, damn, she fine. She got an ass, titties, and all. What the hell is wrong with that? That's just a man's instincts, man. Uh, let me get that one wife scripture. See, they want to make you. They got that church following spirit to make you think you doing wrong. Everything you do. Oh, you have more than one wife. You're drinking. You don't honor your parents because you don't visit them every day. You don't love them because you know what I'm saying. You don't put in tithes all the plates that's going around. 3, 4 times during church, you don't put in all your tithe money. I know that you got. I see your job. I see your car, and you act like you can't put in more money to the church. We need lights. We need this. Like, come on, man. Like, you know, and these are the rich people. These are the people these are the pastors that be sleeping around with every man's wife and shit, committing adultery like a. It's a harlot houses up in those churches, man. It says, 1 Timothy 3:2, a bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, see, sober, of good behavior, and given to. I guess that his title. Nate's title. That's why he called himself a bishop. I guess he's got to fulfill his role to have one wife. That don't mean everybody else has to have one wife. Vigilant, sober, and of good behavior, given to hospitality after teaching. Let the deacons, verse 12, jump into verse 12. Let the deacons be the husbands of one wife. See, that has to be said because we can have more than one wife. It specifically says let the deacons and the bishops. It didn't say every man. One wife having faithful children, not accused of riot or unruly. Um, and some men are better than others with women. Some men are not as tempted with women as other men. Some men are able to have 2, 3 wives and not be caught up in the lust and be overtaken by the women because of their seduction or the ideas and the womanly, so-called womanly, you know, attributes that you know, being American raised, of course they're gonna put in more than 2 cents, and it's gonna be 3 or 4 or 5 cents. It's gonna be 10 cents. Next thing you know, they stepping around with $1 in the house, thinking that they, yeah, I got him. He does really everything I say do. And if any be blamed is the husband, one wife having faithful children or kids. So yeah, and women and the temptation of women is strong. It tells you that in the Apocrypha that it compared to women and it compared with wine and the king. They all have significant power, but they didn't never say show us one scripture where it says having more than one wife is wicked, evil, or unlawful. And actually, it's more like a suggestion or to recommend that it's best to have one wife, especially in these times. And then it says the men that do have wives is like they have none. Um, and women like the example of Hagar, Abraham, and his wife Sarah and Hagar. Women were like, shit. If you barren, what am I supposed to do? And I want a child. You want to go to a so-called white man and get a adopt a child, or you want your own child, especially from that man if that woman loves that man. So she's barren. So she gonna say something. She may say, and this is the daughters of Sarah. It says, so you could be called the daughters of Sarah. Let me get that. And guess what Sarah did? She told as Abraham. Let me see. For the Lord I fast. I said I was 110, 10, seed, cost, uh, yeah, um, it says, so be as Sarah calling her husband Lord. Yeah. See, because she was barren, so she said, "Go into my handmaid Hagar." Now, how many women would say that? But you supposed to be like Sarah, uh, daughters of. Man, why isn't it popping up? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna look it up on my phone. And time slips away from me. Then are you the daughters of Sarah, King James Version. First Peter 3:6. It says, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as you do well and are not afraid with any amazement. It says, the elder women teach the younger women. Well, that's an example. Then they say, well, we're gonna follow what Sarah like. We want to be like Sarah. She's a great example where Sarah said, "Go into my handmaid Hagar, so you can have so she could bear thee a child," and because she was barren. So if you think a man's gonna like want a family and then use your handmaid is in the guest house or whatever. She's a maid. She's clean and all that, and she's fairly pretty and all that. You're gonna be like, well, shit. Let me just go in the Hagar and we have and this. And that's just what happened, man. Uh, yeah, Genesis 61, now 16 and 1, it says, Now Sarah, Abraham's wife, bare him no children, and she had an handmaid, an Egyptian whose name was Hagar. You got some uh, Hagar. And Sarah said unto Abraham, Behold, now the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in to my hand, my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. Now you think Abraham was holding back and like, I gotta take it easy on her. She's this delicate. She's a concubine, and my wife wouldn't. She's not really wanting to do this, but this is just to bring a baby back. So I won't just. Nah, he had fun and really pleasure with that woman. Now, like I said, she probably was pretty as hell. And Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarah. Like, hell yeah, I'll go inside. And Sarah, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abraham and dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband, Abraham to his wife. So, um, and I want to get when I do another video, I want to mention too about Lot's daughters. Of course they went off, but women, these and they Moab, that Moab came about and Ammon came about. That's let you know too that the Most High don't care about these nations. Lot gave them over to Sodomites and said, "Do as thou will with them." So, as we have said before, women are really like y'all just waiting to have children and waiting to fulfill your husband's desires. And of course, your honor is being the weaker vessel, not being equal to your husband, over your husband, or in the circle of the husband or the elect, and showing your head and popping up, and yeah, you know, this is a man's world and it's a man's book. But of course, we go into women, and the Most High don't mind us having our heart's desire. Like I said, you're gonna have your heart's desire. You're gonna have, if you want many women, you're gonna have many women. You know, I wouldn't complain about my son having many women. Shit, the more the merrier. Especially, you know, being not a sodomite, you're gonna be like, shit, yeah, you know, go have all the women you want, son. Especially if he's pleasing you, or rather when he's pleasing you, you're definitely gonna be like, yeah, I got some. I actually know some women that that are friends with my wife that they got daughters. You ain't gonna hold nothing back. Like, yeah. Um, and you know how men, we were tempted by women. Even Reuben had slept with his father's concubine. Like, a lot of times Jake is really unstable when he's around beautiful women, especially a lot. That's why Most High said, "Hey, just one, because it's the end of the world, man. We got time to be falling by no women no more. This the whole reason why this stuff began with Eve, and our greatest kings and our greatest points in life as Israelites have been uh, falling under women, man. You know, so of course, it's better to have one wife, but if you have wisdom, and not saying that brothers don't have one, but if that's the case where you are situation to have another wife, 3 wives, 4 wives, Most High doesn't look down at that, man. You're not evil and wicked because of that, and you love them. It's not like you treating them as sluts and all that. It says, "What man has hated his own flesh?" But these women, they can't fathom or get in a mind that you can love them and another woman and another woman. That's how much a man can have love for a woman, as much as he is the progenitor of the people of the universe with his own people, his own seed, his royalty. They're gonna be able to carry that, you know. But anyway, to the next video. I'm gonna do kind of a little bit more on this. Hopefully, it's fine. To the next video. Shalom.